right, guys, I'm going to cover some stories that came out of camp today. A lot of them are positive. I'm going to, on the back end of this sucker, talk about some injuries and what that's going on. But there was some little interesting tidbits that I picked up on the Twitterverse, and I want to get into that as well. One of the things is Mike McDaniel talking about the offensive line is not settled yet at a few positions. And I was doing deadlifts before I decided to do this podcast. And for me, deadlifts have always been the core of lifting, and it's kind of like a spiritual thing. And someone had asked me, can Eichenberg, find his way? He was so good in college. What happened here? And some all the stuff that people have been bringing up about offensive line and blocking. It really took me down a weird rabbit trail, and I think there's value in some of it, and some of it, though, it'll be, I don't know. I'm probably not going to get into all of it here, but I do think Liam Eichenberg and a lot of offensive linemen can be saved and also improve their game. But there's certain basics in blocking that are so basic, but when it gets to the higher levels, people aren't putting it into practice. And in a lot of ways, I think, too, it's kind of like if you watch a professional running back, the first thing you learn when you're a running back is opening your hands and leaving it open to the side of the quarterback. Quarterback, see, you go like this, coming over here like this. And you'll see guys, they take the football like this. It's so bizarre that these fundamental aspects, kind of the best athletes in the world, they kind of leave them in the dust. And so the concept of the punch is something that I've been really thinking about for quite some time. I don't know if I'm going to get into all here, but it's going to tie into what Mike McDaniel said and Liam Eichenberg. So that's this bunch of stories I'm going to cover today. I'm going to probably put the chapters there so you can kind of pick and choose. I haven't been doing that. I've been a little bit lazy, but I'll get into that, guys. I'm going to do my no BS film study after this. A funny story that will tie into my deadlifting thought process through the blocking thing that kind of held things up. So that's going to happen right after this one. So anyway, quick little story. Boomer Esiason shared the story about Brian Daboll on Tua. And I'm not going to say that this is, 100% lock, stock, barrel, true. But for the people out there that are saying that he can't process, well, why would Brian Daboll say this? And it's very, very interesting. Saw it on the Twitterverse. I'm really starting to like the Twitterverse more. I know there's a lot of dumb talk that goes through there, nasty talk, but there's so much to be had from that thing. So I'll do my plug right there. Check me out at Twitter, Xverse, Curtis at Fins News 1. Anyway, Boomer shared the story about Daboll, about how in Alabama, Tua saw things on the field that he couldn't see on tape. And he would ask Tua, how did you see that? And Tua has this insane ability to see and anticipate things. And this is the process of instinct and your mind putting together all this information, this physical information, and then processing the right thing. And people say he can't read. And we don't know exactly what this is talking about because it might not be just simply progressions. It might be, through the RPO and seeing where gaps and holes are. And Marino was a lot like that too, guys. Marino wasn't like, Mr. Cerebral. That's not his thing. He just had unbelievable peripheral vision, and he had great instinct, and he processed all this stuff. And that's why he says, pick a guy and let it fly. It was instinct. And so Tua is clearly, I think, from what we've seen on film, has this ability to see this physical space and find the gaps and get it out quickly. But I think that this could, and it could be extended into simple progression reads. And I think this season, if you're not a Tua guy on his ability to go to progressions, or you are, I think this season will be the season to determine it, because if we can get Waddle Hill, OBJ, and Jonnu, and then Achane in the back, even with this offensive line that's no bueno, they'll be able to get it out super quick because these guys will are not late clock guys like a Mike Gesicki or even a Craycraft. They can get into their routes and get deep and get depth and get there in a hurry. And it's going to allow Tua to keep these, not have to go back to that 12 personnel, max protect, 2 guys. He's going to put more guys in routes. And I think this is the season that we'll see what is what. Not to the exact degree because, you want to get to the line of scrimmage and call those hot routes, and better protection would allow you to get deeper into that. But the quick reads of these guys going to routes and seeing the space and where the weakness is, I think Tua will get his best opportunity to prove his doubters correct or wrong this season. So then next after that, and this is the Eichenberg, I don't know. I guess I went into like the ether, the nether region with my mind. And I think putting a lot of stuff I've been thinking together about blocking. But Mike McDaniel said there are still some spots on the offensive line that need to be settled. There was another thing that came out. I think it was from Travis Wingfield. Miami couldn't get much going in a run game inside, but they sprung a handful of wide plays, a 25-yarder Raheem, and one scoring as a 50-yarder from Achane. And he said he came back and he said, I want to qualify. This is Tampa. They got Vita Vea, who I want it so bad. Anyway, that he is just a guy that gobbles up all teams trying to run inside, and you can't really get too much down on him. And I agree on that, but last week in our preseason game, they didn't have Payne or Allen on their D-line. It was it's kind of like a poorish defensive line. And they didn't have those 2 guys, and they shut us down inside, except for my new man, Robert Jones, really putting together some very nice run blocking. And so there is going to be a problem here. We got guys that they're not drive blockers. And if you can't drive block, there was a play, and I had shown it before. I've been watching it on the old 22. Go back and watch Robert Jones get into the guy and then turn him. When a running back likes to see the guy get driven back 5 yards down the field. But when you drive him 5 yards back down the field, then you have a 2-way go again. So that running back hits the hole, and now sees a guy in front of him, and now he's going to go left or right. But when you take that guy and you turn him and you open up the hole, then there's a hole there. There's no next step except for the guy that's coming through. That's the best option. It was a beautiful block, but we don't get much of those. And it came back to my thinking, can Liam Eichenberg get saved or salvage his career? And I actually was working on the concept of the punch. And I need to go back and go through these plays. But what I see over and over again is guys that when they get into contact, the first thing they lead is with their chest to their face, and then the hands follow. The best offensive linemen are guys that use their hands, that punch. And there's a lot to go into. I'm not going to cover it here, but I'm going to get into it because I actually worked on a training drill. I guess I'm going to the crazy land on how these guys can learn to get their punch better. And I do believe when you look at an offensive lineman, the key for all offensive linemen is to handle power. Okay? They don't have to be powerful. They just got to handle power. And there's lots of ways to do it. Some guys, they're just big. Some guys, they're punchy, strong, and they can handle it. Other guys, they use their speed to get into somebody before the other guy. There's so many ways to do it, but it's got to be handled. And when you look at Liam, his structure is he's not strong. He's a little unsure of himself. But what you see is a lot of times is he doesn't have a good punch. I'm going to go back and confirm that. I do think that there's a lot of opportunities for these guys, but you have to also understand, I'm going to get off this because it's getting a little too esoterical. The hands and the face, the human body by nature protects the hands and the face. The face because it's the center of their being. That's why you'd rather get poop on your hands than your face. You'd rather get poop on your foot than your hands. And your hands are also the second thing because there's so much nerves there. You want to protect them. And you see guys like Paul, you see that his hands, he's not there yet. And if you can get your hands, football on the offensive line between a D lineman and the offensive lineman is a fight. And the hand usage, it's a hand fighting battle. Mano y mano. Mano is one, mano is hand, so it's mano y mano. And the ability to use those hands is a massive difference. It's in a way to slide the battle towards your side. But a lot of people don't do it because by nature they guard their hands. And so I'm on another podcast at the back end because I don't think anyone's going to pay attention to. I'm going to go through some philosophical concepts, my little drill, because I really want to see, I had the whole thing, Liam Eichenberg is Eiching. And I'm not mad at the kid. I'm mad at the people who put him in there, and he's just not capable. But I do think this guy could be saved if he were. I think the punch, there's a lot of things that go into it. But the punch, I think, is a key thing. So there's some spots that need to be settled. Cotton, big guy, but doughy. He just doesn't have the drive. Driscoll is not so hot. Hayes is not so hot. Eichenberg is not so hot. Lamb, I like Lamb, but he's not a drive blocker. He's a pass guy, and he's an older guy, and there's some nicks going on there. Tehran's got it all, but he's older. He's been beat up. Jackson's another guy who can't really handle power. I think he's gotten a little better, though, I think. I got to go back and really study through him. Brewer, I like a ton in certain areas, but not everywhere. Wynn, I think he's a good player through some things, but he's not a drive blocker. But the drive blocking doesn't always have to be what Robert Jones does, and that's just country boy strong, big yoking them up. So I'm going to try to really put together some film on Eichenberg and see if there's a way to work it through in my craziness. Anyway, that's that. Guys, the likes, subscribes, the comments, the views, all that stuff keeps me in the biz to do what I love to do is cover this game and sometimes get a little crazy. I've got to tell a story, though. I was inside getting ready to record, thinking about my Liam Eichenberg stuff, and my wife and my kids, Daddy, there's a tarantula outside. So I had to go outside, take the tarantula down the street. Got rid of the tarantula. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's a sign that we can get the tarantula off of Eichenberg. Good kid, really, and we really could use him to step up. Anyway, so all the stuff you guys do keeps me in the business doing this thing. So I want to give you a shout out and shout out to Eichenberg, my sponsor, because without you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, so I'm going to round up some good conversations that came out. Storm Duck had a pick. He's doing really good. I think he's sticking. I think what you're seeing on his special teams and how he's performing, he's got to stick. I think that you don't want to put him on a practice squad and let him go out there. And I think he's actually earning a lot of what he's doing out there to really get himself a legitimate spot. And I'm praying, as you all know. Now, DolphinsTalk.com on Twitter. Again, this Twitter thing's really kind of going in the right places for me. Ethan Bonner was a man possessed today, matching TEs, ran vertical in a hitch for a receiver for a breakup, had a big pop behind the LOS that got the Dolphins sideline fired up. Bonner, he's getting big talk from Waddle and Holland. Storm Duck and Bonner will be big pieces to this puzzle. I think they're legit-ish. Bonner a little bit more. But this is great news for us. And then Brandon Peely's a guy I liked. I thought he wasn't going anywhere, but when they got rid of Tart, he really kind of, they said, hey, look, we're believing in this guy because of what he can do in the 0-1 technique. He had a sack today in the red zone. He had a good play last week. He's stringing together impact plays. I still think he's a little bit softish, but as a second backup tackle, I think he's going to stick, and I think that he's heading in a nice direction. I'm not saying great, but a nice direction. But another nice story is one-on-ones opened up. Chop Robinson went against Tristan Wirfs, who's very good, for 4 reps, and the results were pretty split. So Chop Robinson is a talent. He's going to stress you with his aggression and speed. And Wirfs, to even split with him, who's a few years more into this game than Robinson, is a great story. To continue to talk, he does have a tendency over to run the edge on wide runs and stuff like that. So he's still working on the run game, which I think it took Phillips about a year and a quarter to really start making that turn. And so I expect that for him. But this kid's a good player. But now we got a bunch of injuries still. Aaron Brewer's been out. Craycraft, we know that. Sanders, I don't think he's going to stick. Brooks, it's a concussion. He'll be back. Ramsey had something last week. It's not the end of the world. But again, Anthony Walker's been out for a couple of weeks. Javon Holland's battling something. Phillips, they're still not sure. He's working in there, and it could be week 1. It could not. Cam Smith, we know the deal. Benito Jones has been out for a while. And I don't like that your nose tackle, your big guy's been out this long. Players not spotted in attendance was Holland, don't know why. Tanakana and Jody Fortson had non-contact. Drills, shirts on for the drills. Tyreek and Waddle, they were in uniform but participated in stretching and early position drills. Easy, he got injured, limped off, but came back and said he's fine. And Patrick Morris also sustained an undisclosed injury. There's lots of little nicks. What does it all amount to? I don't know. But it's never good to be nicked. It's never good. There's nothing good, but doesn't mean it's the end of the world. We'll see. But so, like I said, we're 2 weeks-ish away from the season. And once that season hits, all these little inflammation things, if they're not totally gone, even if it's a small amount of inflammation, it's going to likely get exacerbated come the season. And it's going to flare up. It's going to be a little thing that, takes a little tick off of your production. So I got to get AC in here, man. So I wouldn't go crazy on all this stuff. But OBJ, I don't think he's going to make the season. The way it's looking, unless some crazy, waving a magic wand week before he's like, I'm here, and he shows up. So there's a lot of nicks. Don't get crazy on any of it, but none of this stuff is good. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll get back with the film on Jordan Brooks tonight, and then I'm going to really try to put together my concept, even if it's a little outlandish, some of the things I'm talking about as far as the blocking. Maybe some of you guys who are really interested in the philosophy, we can work some stuff out. But I hope that we get this offensive line in a better situation. And I hope Eichenberg does it. He's not ready now. He's totally not. And I think it's concerning if he's got to start for us. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.